start off with the A20 by opening up the canopy, and we can see a few things happen here. The whole top comes up, our armor plate goes down, and we can see into the back a little bit. Close it, see the armor plate comes back up and that left window will shut. Now looking to the left side of the pilot seat, you've got a hydraulic hand pump, landing gear control. Now repositioning, we can see fuel shutoff valves on the lower left for the left and right, and a fuel transfer selector valve above that. Carburetor air temperature controls. There are the supercharger controls and the processor switch gears there. Above that we have the flap position indicator, which goes from 0 to 50 degrees. Now we'll look at the throttle quadrant. The red knob is a mixture and it has 4 set positions. Idle cutoff for engine start and stop, auto lean for economic cruise, auto rich for every other condition except for economic cruise, and then you'll go full rich when the auto mixture control fails. The black knob is our throttle, and the white knobs are going to be the propeller controls. Then coming down, we can see our flaps controls there. Then above and to the left of that, we'll look at the next panel. It has our fuel booster pumps for the left and right engines, the engine start switches, oil dilution switches, our battery mainline switches. And then we have some lighting, the instrument lights and the compass light brightness. Then you've got your radio and panel light brightness and the cockpit lights. There's the pitot heat and the navigation lights. And then to the right of that panel, we have the emergency bomb release handle and the nose gun charging valve. In this panel, we've got the master ignition switch assembly, a bombardier cowl light, the Bombay door light, which will light up white, landing gear safe light, which is green and down and locked, the bombs drop light, which will be red upon release, the bombardier call light switch, landing gear horn silencer, the landing light switch will extend and retract the landing lights, the master nose gun switch, engine primer, then you've got the propeller feathering controls, which are these 2 red knobs. Then you've got the gun sight brightness and the navigation light brightness underneath those. Up first is the pilot direction indicator. This is controlled by the bombardier and it's used to give pilots course corrections during a bombing run. Then there's the magnetic compass and slip indicator, artificial horizon. Coming down, we've got the altimeter in feet, airspeed indicator in miles per hour, the turn and bank indicator, vertical speed indicator in feet per minute, fuel gauge and the fuel tank selector, clock, and then we have the parking brake, manifold pressures for the left and right engines, tachometers for the left and right engines, and coming down, got the carburetor air temperatures, oil temperatures, cylinder head temperatures, oil pressures for left and right engines, fuel pressures for the left and right engines, suction gauge, then the hydraulic pressure gauge. Under that you see another gauge. This is going to be your oxygen gauge and regulator. And over to the right, got the radios and the interphone controls. Continuing around to the right, we have 3 wheels here. These are your trims. There's your elevator trim. The NH is nose heavy and the TH means tail heavy. There's your rudder trim. Then there's airline trim as well. To the back right of the pilot, you've got an emergency brake system which is powered by air pressure. Now we have 2 extra controls to look at for these engines. First is the upper cowl flaps, and this lever controls both upper cowl flaps on each engine, and you only use them on the ground for extra cooling, so they need to be closed before takeoff. The red knob levers are the lower cowl flaps, and these can be open or closed at any time. You can see them there. We make them fully open. That's those. Now looking back to the last part, it's going to be the magnetic compass. Now if we press Ctrl C, we'll swap to the first gunner position. He has a few items as well. He's got his own electrical panel and in the interphone there. And over on the other side, here's his gunner emergency controls for the throttle and mixture. Now if we pick up the gun, it's going to be done with the letter T. Move it around with the mouse. Shift T looks over the iron sight, and we can just left click to fire. Put the weapon away, everything closes up. Press Ctrl C, we go to the next position. This is in the belly. We can see the dorsal gunner there. So if we press T, the compartment's going to open up and the gun's going to slide down, and that way we can shoot at the bottom of the airplane. You can close it up, pressing T to put the gun away. Now you can have a look at the pilot's notes for the A-20 while the engines are starting up. So now we're back in the cockpit, the engines are started. We ensure the propeller control is all the way forward. This gives us maximum RPM to taxi with. And to provide extra cooling on the ground, this is when your upper cowl flaps are used. By opening these up, you'll have the extra cooling, but you need to make sure these are closed before takeoff. If they aren't closed, the airflow is going to be disrupted and there'll be a lot of vibration while you're trying to fly. The lower ones are also open for taxi. Now to release the parking brake, we just tap the toe brakes and we can get rolling. Now you're going to require a fair bit of power to get the motion going first. So give yourself a decent burst of power to get the airplane rolling. You can add a bit of rudder and brake to keep yourself straight. And you want to gain some forward motion before attempting to turn. This is because the nose wheel is not controllable. To get ready for takeoff on the A-20B, if you want a short takeoff roll, extend the flaps to 1/3, otherwise leave them to 0. Mixture will be auto rich, propeller will be full forward, elevator trim will be half a division forward, rudder and aileron trim will be neutral, your upper cowl flaps will be closed, the lower cowl flaps will be open, and you're rotating at 100 miles per hour if you have 1/3 flaps, or 115 miles per hour if you're not using flaps. After we're airborne, the gears retracted, we're going to accelerate to 135 miles per hour, and then we can retract the flaps and reduce manifold pressure to 35 to 40 inches, set RPM to 2,300, and we'll have a cruise climb of 145 miles per hour. Alright, so we're going to aim for a shorter takeoff run in this, so I'm going to set the flaps to 1/3. And then looking at the mixture, got that set to auto rich. Propeller control is fully forward. Elevator is going to be half a division forward. Aileron and rudder is neutral. Now these upper cowl flaps, those are going to be shut. And we can leave the lower cowl flaps open. Now on the takeoff roll, you're going to increase the power smoothly to 45 inches and 2400 RPM because you don't want to exceed those on takeoff. Otherwise you can end up hurting the engine. Now we'll bring the power up to about 15 to 20 inches and get ourselves rolling a little bit. Using some right brake or right rudder to keep us straight. Once we get a little bit of rolling speed, we'll increase the power the rest of the way, up to the full 45 inches, nice and smooth. because we want to avoid that RPM exceeding 2400. We're coming down the runway and we're getting close to 100 miles per hour, so we're getting a slight bit of back pressure and raise the nose wheel off the ground. Now hold it there and we'll take off in this position. Now once we have at least 50 feet underneath us, we can retract the landing gear. Once the landing gear is retracted, we want to accelerate to our best single engine climb speed of 135 miles per hour. And the nose may want to pitch up when the gear is retracted, so we're going to add some nose heavy trim as well. Once we reach a safe altitude, we're going to retract the flaps. We're going to accelerate to around 145 miles per hour with our manifold pressure set to between 35 and 40 inches and our RPM at 2,300. This climb speed is good up until about 15,000 feet, and then you can reduce it to 135 miles per hour above 15,000 feet. Now I'm going to ditch all those bombs we had and then stay in the pattern and we'll look at how to land the A-20B. This is going to be pretty straightforward. On downwind, you're going to set the mixture to auto rich, manifold pressure will be 15 inches, and RPM will be 2,300. Then you're going to get the lower cowl flaps to the fully closed position, and you'll find you're going to slow down to around 150 miles per hour. So you're established at this speed by the end of downwind. At that point you're going to extend the landing gear, and once the gear has been extended, you're going to extend the flaps to full. And then you'll begin your base to final turn at an airspeed of around 120 miles per hour. So looking at our mixture, we can see it's set to auto rich. We're going to set those lower cowl flaps to the fully closed position. Bring our manifold pressure back to around 15 inches, and the RPM will be set at 2,300, and then we'll start our slow down to about 150 miles per hour. And then once we're nearing the end of our downwind, we'll be in the touchdown point, we extend the landing gear, get the green light. Now we can start extending the flaps all the way to full. Begin our base to final turn, and once we reach that 120 mile per hour mark, we'll start our descent into the field. Now as always, we've got our aiming point on the field. We're trying to maintain our descent towards that point at 120 miles per hour. Since we're using the pitch to keep ourselves going towards that aiming point, we're going to be using the power to adjust the airspeed accordingly. So as you can tell, my aiming point is right at the beginning of that field. So coming in, maintaining our airspeed. Bring the wings level now. As we get into the round out, we'll level the plane out and slowly raise the nose above the horizon to prevent the nose wheel hitting. As the mains touch, we can slowly let the nose wheel come down, apply the brakes, and also keep that back pressure going to keep the pressure off the nose wheel as we come to a stop. Once you're at a taxiing speed, you can retract the flaps, and you can also open those upper cowl flaps for extra cooling, and then taxi to wherever you're going to go. That completes the tutorial for the A-20B. If you liked it, let me know by using the like button and leaving a comment, and don't forget to be a subscriber so you can see more videos as they're released.